Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvachakacharya Shila Astuka. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Shila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्री वासुदेव गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। गंगा देवी की जय, यमुना देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी तुलसी देवी महारानी की जय। All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. So Hare Krishna, good morning everyone. Today we are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 12, which is entitled Creation of the Kumaras and Others, and we are reading text 48 and 49. Vasu Prabhu gave the day before, he gave 44 to 47, and yesterday was meant to be 48, but apparently verse 46 was written up, so I prepared for verse 49, so I'll do 48 and 49 today. We'll chant the invocation prayers before starting the Srimad Bhagavatam class. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So the verses are up on the board, so please repeat after me. Shabda Brahma Manastasya Vyakta Vyaktatmana Paraha Brahma Vabhati Vitato Nana Shakti Upabhritmita Shabda Brahma Manastasya Vyakta Vyaktatmana Paraha Brahma Vabhati Vitato Nana Shakti Upabhrimitaha. Please chant. Shabda Brahmatmanastasya Vyakta Vyaktatmana Paraha Brahma Vabhati Vitato Nana Shakti Upamritaha. Shabda Brahmatmanastasya Vyakta Vyaktatmana Paraha Brahma Vabhati Vitato Nana Shakti Upabhrimitaha. Shabda Brahmatmanastasya Vyakta Vyaktatmana Paraha Brahma Vabhati Vitato Nana Shakti Upabhrimitaha. So word for word, Shabda Brahma, transcendental sound, Atmanaha, of the Supreme Lord, Tasya, his, Vyakta, manifested, Avyakta Atmanaha, of the unmanifested, Paraha, transcendental, Brahma, the absolute, Avabhati, completely manifested, Vitataha, distributing, Nana, multifarious, Shakti, energies, Upabhrimitaha, invested with. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Brahma is the personal representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the source of transcendental sound, and is therefore above the conception of manifested and unmanifested. Brahma is the complete form of the Absolute Truth and is invested with multifarious energies. Please repeat. Brahma is the personal representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the source of transcendental sound and is therefore above the conception of manifested and unmanifested. Brahma is the complete form of the Absolute Truth and is invested with multifarious energies. The post of Brahma is the highest responsible post within the universe, and it is offered to the most perfect personality of the universe. Sometimes the Supreme Personality of Godhead has to become Brahma when there is no suitable living being to occupy the post. In the material world, Brahma is the complete representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and transcendental sound, pranava, comes from him. He is therefore invested with multifarious energies from which all the demigods like Indra, Chandra and Varuna are manifested. This transcendental value is not to be minimized, even though he exhibited a tendency to enjoy his own daughter. There is a purpose for the exhibition of such a tendency by Brahma, and he is not to be condemned like an ordinary living entity. So text 49 is also on the board, so we'll chant. Tato param upadaya sasargaya manodade. Please chant. Tato param upadaya sasargaya manodade. So word for word, tataha, thereafter, aparam, another, upadaya, having accepted, saha, he, sargaya, in the matter of creation, manaha, mind, dade, gave attention. Translation. Thereafter, Brahma accepted another body in which sex life was not forbidden, and thus he engaged himself in the matter of further creation. Please repeat. Thereafter, Brahma accepted another body in which sex life was not forbidden, and thus he engaged himself in the matter of further creation. Purport. In his former body, which was transcendental, affection for sex life was forbidden, and Brahma therefore had to accept another body to allow himself to be connected with sex. He thus engaged himself in the matter of creation, his former body transformed into fog as previously described. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shinvatam Shakatam Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtanam Hidayatakshohi Bhattani Vidunoti Suritatam Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhudevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Putale Srimati Bhakti Krishna Goswami Namani Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Putale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani So I seek the blessings from all the devotees that I can speak something that will be beneficial to all of us, and especially for my self-purification. And I'll repeat whatever I've heard and read from Srila Prabhupada's books and the previous acharyas and Srila Prabhupada's followers. And we pray that we can all, especially for myself, that this knowledge can penetrate our hearts and we can apply this knowledge in our lives. So Prabhupada mentions in the purport of 48 that Brahma is a post. So just like in a company, there is a post there is the CEO, and then he has people under him. So if a person who is directly under him, there's no qualified person, the CEO may take that role of that person who oversees everyone else, and he needs to, he will take on that position if there's no qualified person until a qualified person comes. So we understand from this purport that the position of Lord Brahma, the engineer of the material bodies, is a person who is given that position, and he's empowered by the Lord. And we understand also from Bhagavatam that the material elements are created, and Brahma, he is given that post of generating the bodies of the living entities. So the soul, we are the spirit soul, and we are eternal, and we are covered by this gross material body and the subtle body. And this is basic foundation knowledge of who we are. So we are the spirit soul, and the gross material body, this is our gross material body, and the subtle body comprises of mind, intelligence, and the false ego. So in the previous verses of this chapter, it talks about the procedure for the creation of the bodies. So why are the bodies created? Is because we desired to try to be the center of attention. In the spiritual world, Krishna is the center, but we became envious of him, and we wanted to experience what it would be like to enjoy. But we are eternally the servant of Krishna, so we can only enjoy when we are connected with the Supreme Source. We can't enjoy independently. So Brahma's post, he was there to generate progeny, and in the previous verses, Rudras that he created, they were addressing him as destiny maker, because he created a certain type of body. For example, if someone who eats stool, who eats animals and eats meat, then in the next life he'll get a body of a tiger. So that he makes the destiny, but the destiny is created by our own choices that we make in life. So he puts together these raw materials that Krishna has created, and he combines these forms and elements. So he gives a specific eye, a specific nose, specific mouth. For example, the tiger has sharp teeth, so that that living entity can enjoy according to that living entity's desire. So just like in Bhagavad Gita, there is a picture of also the tiger, and then there's a picture of a gluttonous person who's eating anything and everything, so that living entity can become something like a hog that eats stool and doesn't discriminate. And we may think it's disgusting, but for the hog, that's like a delicacy. And then also for living entity who is given that human form of life, but misuses the human form of life and exposes the body for sense gratification, then that living entity will become a tree in the next life, where the tree body stands naked for many, many years. And there's some trees that are hundreds of years old, so they're standing naked to the elements. So we understand from this that the principle of reincarnation and karma or karma, which is the law of action and reaction. So we all have a choice. No matter what position we are in life, we have a choice of whether we can elevate our consciousness, because this human form of life, it's different from the animal form of life, which has a higher propensity to inquire about what is my service, what is my mission in this human form of life, who am I, who is God, and what is my relationship with God. So also Brahma mentions in the previous verses, text 18, he says, by penance, he's instructing his sons Rudra, by penance only shall you be able to create the universe as it was before. And it also mentions in text 25 that Brahma, who was empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thought of generating living entities and begot 10 sons for the extension of the generations. So we understand that he gave up his body, his previous body, because it was not suitable for sex life, and he was attracted to his daughter. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport there's a reason why that happened. So the reason was that the examples of previous classes also, that he's teaching that even a great living entity like Lord Brahma and even Lord Shiva, they can become illusioned by the material energy, and they can fall down due to sex attraction. So the reason the Shastras state this is also to emphasize that we have to be so careful with this free mixing of men and women. And of course we need to apply it according to time, place and circumstances. So we are living in this world today, and naturally there is the interaction between men and women. So it's not that we completely segregate, because we see that when Prabhupada came to the West, there was no such thing as a brahmacharini ashram. But he created that. He saw that there's no way he can completely separate men and women. So he created this ashram also for ladies. So we have a brahmachari ashram, which is where men can practice celibacy, and brahmacharini ashram, where women can practice celibacy. But not only that, but in connection with the Supreme Lord. So we see that, especially in our community, that interaction is there. But the principle, the underlying principle is that we understand that every living entity, so we understand that opposite gender is part and parcel of the Lord, and they are servants of the Lord, and they are not for my sense gratification. So we interact with the devotees with respect, with love and attention, but we're also very careful and introspective in how we interact, because we may show the world whatever we show, but we can't cheat Krishna. And if we are interacting with a certain motive, we're not introspecting that why am I interacting with the gender of attraction? Is it for service, or is it for subtle sense gratification or subtle sex? Then we are only cheating ourselves. So we can only tell that for ourselves. We're not there to judge others, and we can't tell externally what is happening, because sometimes our senses can deceive us. So sometimes it's not as it appears. So we need to be careful of that. So this is a caution for us to be introspective in ourselves. So, and then on to text 49. Seems like I get the really hard verses on the sex life. But it was talking about how Lord Brahma gave up his body. And previously, in a previous class, Manibandha Prabhu was mentioning that we're not very clear whether Lord Brahma gave up his gross body, or it was a giving up of a subtle body. So I did a bit of research, and in Bhagavad Gita it mentions in verse 15:8 that the living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. So we understand that we also have the subtle body. And also in Bhagavad Gita 2:13 it says, as the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by a change. So we understand that even when we were a baby body and someone may look at us and look at the photo and they say, where is that person gone? Well, you're the same person, but your body has changed. And together with the change of the gross body, the subtle body has also changed. So we give the example of a child who's 5 years old. He doesn't have that body, the subtle body of interacting with men and women and that sex attraction. That living entity is the same body, but he's not, his consciousness has not developed in the understanding of that. And when he gets older or she gets older, then there is marriage, and then there's that interaction and the sex attraction and the generation of children. So we even understand in this lifetime that there is a subtle change in the body, because even sometimes if someone is an alcoholic or they have some problems in their life and they go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, and then many years later maybe they did some very bad things and they meet someone and then they talk to that person and they say, I'm a new person now, I'm not that same person. So that indicates that there is a subtle, that person has given up that subtle mentality, that consciousness. So in this, so from that, understand that Lord Brahma may not have given up his gross body, but he gave up that subtle body, that consciousness, because prior to his attraction to Vak, his daughter, he did create progeny. He created the 10, it says he created his 10 sons, Marichi, Atri, and then they were speaking to him and saying that in text 30, it says they were addressing him respectfully. They were saying, your character is followed for spiritual improvement by people in general. So they were also saints and sages, and they also had that respect for their father, that even though he was doing something that is very bad and is not proper, being attracted and chasing after his daughter, that they addressed him carefully and reminded him that you have a very high position. And even in Bhagavad Gita it says, whatever yat yat achareti, so whatever a great man does, a common man follows. So they reminded him, and then he checked himself, and he didn't act on that desire even though he was subtly thinking it. So because of that, he had to give up that that contaminated attraction for sex, and he gave up his subtle body. And it says there that he had to accept another body to allow himself to be connected with sex. He thus engaged himself in the matter of creation. So he had to also go through, like in modern times, you go through a 12-step program, or you see a psychologist, psychiatrist to correct that wrong mentality. So after doing that, he gave up that subtle body or that consciousness, and then he went on to again in the matter of creation. So we'll find out in the future verses how he created more progeny, and then from them more progeny was created. And Prabhupada mentions there that in Bhagavad Gita 7.14 purport, it says there that one should practice cleansing oneself externally and internally, and he should learn to become simple in behavior. He should not do anything which is not sanctioned by the spiritual injunctions. He should not indulge in sex outside of married life, for sex is sanctioned in the scriptures only in marriage, not otherwise. Penances, so that's penances and austerities of the bodies. And then in 17:16 purport, Prabhupada mentions there that to make the mind austere is to detach it from sense gratification. It should be so trained that it can be always thinking of doing good for others. The best training for the mind is gravity in thought. One should not deviate from Krishna consciousness and must always avoid sense gratification. So one needs to purify one's nature, and to purify one's nature is to become Krishna conscious. So this word austere, to become austere in mind, it gives that connotation of we are restricting ourselves, we are practicing abnegation. But even we see in the material world that we have this discipline to study really hard. We don't go out partying or enjoying, and we have that self-discipline. I have an exam coming up, I have an assessment, and I'm going to study. Or if I want to look after my health, I'm eating healthy food. I want to look after my body, I want to get a toned body, I'm doing some exercise. So that is also austerity of the mind and the body. So why is it that when we hear performing some austerity for spiritual elevation, for actually fulfilling our human mission in this life, then we think, oh no, this is too much and this is not right. But when it comes to the body, for a good body, good health, and to get a good career, to be self-disciplined and study, then we do that. But when it comes to spiritual austerity, then we don't want to do it. So then we need to be introspective and understand and try to inquire that if I'm doing this for material things, just like every day I'm eating 3 times a day, most people, then I need to also eat and feed my spiritual life, like to develop my spiritual consciousness. And that's why we have this human life, this human mission, that we shouldn't forget the goal of our life in this world is not just to live a good life, a healthy life, to do good for others on a material platform, but to do good for others on a spiritual platform, which is eternal, and it continues on, and it's progressive, and then ultimately we'll go back home, back to Godhead, where there's no birth, there's no birth, death, old age, and disease, and we'll be eternally living a blissful life. So Prabhupada mentions in verse 7:11 that I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life which is not contrary to religious principles, O Lord of the Bharatas, Arjuna. In the purport, Prabhupada elaborates, the strong man's strength should be applied to protect the weak, not for personal aggression. So it's just a matter of changing one's mentality. Just like Prabhupada gives the example of 2 men, one is Krishna conscious and one is acting on the material platform, and they're both working in the office. The man who's working in a material consciousness, come Friday night, he goes out partying, goes out to the club. But a Krishna conscious person, he's doing the same external activities as the other person in the office. But when he goes home, he has an altar, he engages his money to come and visit the temple or the church or the mosque. He's using his money for God and in God's service. And it says here that sex life, according to religious principles, dharma, should be for the propagation of children, not otherwise. The responsibility of parents is then to make their offspring Krishna conscious. So we see in this verse that Brahma, after giving up that subtle body, he thus engaged in the matter of creation. So he went on to continue the further creation. So his sex life was used in the service of the Lord, because the living entity desired to enjoy, and there's different grades of consciousness. So some are more progressive and they are closer to God, some are a bit further away. So this material world is created to give the living entity a chance to get a material body, to engage in the material world, and to understand ultimately that we can't enjoy separately from Krishna. So he did this service of creating progeny to give an opportunity for souls to take on a gross body as they desired, to try to fulfill their desires, and also an opportunity to progress in one's consciousness, to purify and elevate one's consciousness and go back home, back to Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita 17:23, it says there that in the purport, Prabhupada says there that any activity which is aimed at the Supreme, Om Tat Sat, that means for spiritual elevation, Krishna consciousness is a scientific execution of transcendental activities which enables one to return home back to Godhead. There is no loss of energy in acting such a transcendental way. So we are all in this world, and we have Urmila Mataji who's coming, and she's going to be speaking on Kariya Dharma. So when we come to this world, sometimes when we joined, also in the olden days, sometimes people joined and then they gave up their studies or they gave up their jobs. So it's Prabhupada explains there that we need to engage, like in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna was instructing Arjuna to fight. And because Arjuna was a warrior, a Kshatriya, and he had to engage according to his nature. So even, Krishna was telling Arjuna that even if you want to renounce, he didn't want to fight. He said that you will still act according to your nature, but it will be separate from me, and then you will be culpable for the reactions of that action. So Prabhupada mentions in this purport 1723, there is no loss of energy in acting in such a transcendental way. So we can act according to our nature. If someone is inclined towards gardening, they can do gardening for Krishna. Like we have here, we have devotees propagating flowers. We have Prabhu planting lots of roses and marigolds. And then those flowers are used as garlands for the Lord and for worship of the Lord and his devotees. And if someone has that nature to build, like we have Mahamantra Prabhu, he's a builder, so he engages that in building houses and building the temple for Krishna and his devotees. So whatever nature we have, we use it and dovetail it in Krishna's service. Then that is not misusing our energy. It says there's no loss of energy. That energy will actually rejuvenate us and enliven us, because it's connected in a transcendental way with the Lord. And furthermore, in Bhagavad Gita 8.6 purport, Prabhupada says that sacrifices are purifying. Sacrifices that purify one's existence and elevate one to the spiritual plane should not be stopped. So Prabhupada is here clearly saying that according to our nature, we need to act. But we use that in service to Krishna, and that will elevate us. So it's not that we compare ourselves to others, because someone's nature can be completely different from ours. We can look to others for inspiration, but we need to also see according to our nature, and we need to also consult with Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. We all need to be intelligent and use our God-given intelligence and become independent and thoughtful, not to be following blindly, but to follow consciously with intelligence and understand and inquire. If someone says, oh, for example, someone says, clean the floor and use the mop and broom. No, actually, I'll use this example. Swayam Bhagwan Maharaj, I often listen to his class, so he was giving this class that there were these 3 workers working and on the road, on the field. And one was digging the hole, and then the second person was putting the seed in, and the third person was covering the hole. So he was seeing this person every day, and then one day he saw the person was digging the hole, and then another person was covering the hole. And then this person went to ask, oh, what are you doing? He said, oh, I'm doing my job. I'm digging the hole. And then the other person says, oh, I'm doing my job. I'm covering the hole. And they said, oh, the other person who was meant to put the seed in wasn't here. So, but I'm just doing my job. So just being blind, we need to use our God-given intelligence and adjust accordingly. Not that we just blindly, mechanically just do whatever we're told to do. And that's why we need to think. Even in spiritual life, we see that we bow down. I remember not too long ago, there was a class also. Indradumna Swami was giving a class. One devotee was getting initiated, and he was saying, when we come to the temple room and we bow down, we don't just go, oh, Jai Hari Bol, and get up. why are we bowing down? We're bowing down to our spiritual master, to Srila Prabhupada. We're chanting the pranam mantras. We are bowing down to Krishna. We are asking them for mercy and blessings to also help us to purify our consciousness and apply this knowledge. So in every step of our life, we need to question why we're doing what we're doing and then adjust accordingly. So we see even in our daily life, we go on, but we need to, something that also I just wanted to mention as a side thing, that I was listening to Prabhupada's class once, and he says, or actually I read something, Prabhupada was saying to a devotee, I can see, but you cannot. And then the devotee was thinking, oh, maybe Prabhupada can see Krishna, and we cannot. And then Prabhupada again repeated, I can see, but you cannot. I can see that the light is on, but no one is in that room, or the fan is going, or the tap is running. So sometimes I pass by here, and this fan is on full blast, and no one is in the temple room, 4 o'clock. So most likely the fan was on from lunchtime right till 4 o'clock. So if we're passing by, it may not be, like in the olden days, they say, Prabhu, it's not my service. No, we are all servants of Krishna. We all have our service, and we all may be busy. But we need to also use our common sense and see, oh, the light is on. What would Prabhupada think, What would Krishna think? It's not that when there's someone around, that's only when then I act. We need to do the right thing even when so-called no one is looking. Of course, there's always someone looking. The elements, the witness, the wind god, the sun, there's always some witness, as we hear from Mahabharata. Yudhishthira was saying that there's nowhere in the world that there's no one present. There's always someone present. There's always a witness. So in every activity we do, we need to do it consciously. Everything can be used in Krishna's service, and we conserve Krishna's energy. Even here, as this purport is saying, even sex life can be engaged in Krishna's service to propagate children and to give them Krishna consciousness, to give them an opportunity to also progress in their life, to go back home, back to Krishna, to make progress gradually. And even if it's not this lifetime, we do our best, and we try to see how we can do good for others. As in 1716, Bhagavatam mentions that we should always be thinking of doing good for others by our own activities and by also guiding those who are under our care, and also being an inspiration to others. Try to always do the right thing to please Krishna, to please the devotees, so that we can get the blessings. Just like a flower, it can open up and close up. So even though we are practicing, maybe we are new to Krishna consciousness, or we are practicing for a long time, then we need to be careful that we are always doing things consciously, because the mercy can also be withdrawn and the mercy flows. So just like the example of someone who's doing very good, but maybe they do something bad in their life, and then they are also culpable, and they are also answerable to the court of law. It's not that someone is in a very high position, just like I was listening to Swayam Bhagwan Maharaj, and he was talking about, also we see that in America, Donald Trump, the previous president, that he faced charges. So even though he was such a great, so-called great person, a great position, then he had to answer. So we all in this world, maybe we may not be caught by the law or caught by someone else, but we always know that we are always answerable to Krishna. We are always answerable to our spiritual master, and we always need to act in that way. I was listening to this classes on Manushiksha a few years ago. Romapad Swami, Urmila Mataji, and Mahatma Prabhu were giving in America a series of lectures, and I think it was in that class, but I think Mahatma Prabhu was saying that sometimes devotees may be practicing Krishna consciousness and they may be in the movement for a while, and then by default they become a senior devotee just because they've been in the movement for many years. So he says, oh, someone may have been giving a very boring class, but now everyone says, oh, you're giving a great class. I'm just giving an example. So it's that the example is not there to criticize someone, but we also need to be introspective in ourselves to understand that I always need to keep making an effort, keep questioning, why am I doing what am I doing? I want to please Krishna, I want to please the devotees, I want to keep the mercy flowing, and I want to keep doing the spiritual activity and help others. And by doing this, we are keeping the flow of mercy going, and we can make progress in spiritual life. So we always need to keep cleansing our heart and also doing the external activities. One should practice cleansing oneself externally and internally. So we are very fortunate by Prabhupada's mercy that we have this process. We have temples all over the world. We have the morning program, we have the evening program. But one may be following these things at the same time. It is beneficial, but if we are not introspective, we are not internalizing this process, then there is no benefit, there is no fruit in it. So we always need to keep cleansing our heart, keep introspecting, keep questioning, keep cleansing our heart. All this, just like in Caitanya Caritamrita, the cleansing of the Gundicha temple. They cleansed it once, then they cleansed it again. They put water and then they collected the big granules, then they collected the fine dust, and then they washed away. Just like we clean the domes of the altar every week, and every week with the bucket we see there's so much dust coming. After the festival there's some residue of leaves or something, some dirt. So we need to continuously keep cleansing. Just like we continuously also eat to sustain our body, we need to also continuously hear and chant and follow the 9 processes of bhakti, so we can constantly the word I'm looking for, sustain our spiritual life. So I'll end there if anyone has any questions, comments, corrections, or anything else they would like to share. Any reflections? Nashinga Kavach Prabhu. Someone could please get the microphone.
Hare Krishna. Just on that point of Brahma giving up his body, I think it's verse 28. No, verse 33. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he comments, since it is impossible for Brahma to die before his lifespan of 2 paradas is complete, giving up his body means giving up a disposition. So he just gave up that kind of disposition towards sex life.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. It just reminded me also on that same verse 33 in the purport where it says that the darkness of fog is ignorance. Ignorance is darkness, and the sun is the only counteracting principle to dissipate that fog. So in Caitanya Caritamrita it says there that Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andakara Jahan Krishna Tahan Maya Nahi Adhikar. So wherever there is the Krishna sun, then there is no the darkness of Maya. Just like the fog is dissipated by the sun, which is the that is the only counteracting principle. And similarly, when we are in the Krishna sun, then that darkness of Maya will go away. And I can say for my own example that even though we're practicing, you see so many anarthas, so many things, and sometimes you think that your mind is so many bad things, but then we see that we need to keep practicing, don't give up, because that is also Maya's trick to try to pull us down and to cover us, that avaratmaka and these two covering potency. Sorry? Yep. Yes, thank you. The covering potency and the pulling down. So we shouldn't give up, just like a child learning to walk, falls down, gets bruised, but we keep getting up, and then gradually the child will grow up and start walking and eventually start running. So we are all in this hospital, we are all on different levels, we all have different degrees of material disease, but we keep progressing, keep helping each other progress, never give up, keep chanting, keep in the association of devotees, and be happy in Krishna consciousness. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavind ki jai.